Hello, 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 y'all. I am here with Miss Alexis Carpenter today. I'm not going to steal her thunder. I'm going to let her introduce herself. So, Alexis, who are you and what you doing here?
Yeah, hi, I'm Alexis Carpenter. I am a high performance coach, a culture consultant, speaker, and author. And I am just like loving the world of speaking and definitely want to have the conversation with you. Loved everything that you've been putting out there. So excited for today.
Awesome. I had a conversation with another speaker that was kind of at a similar credibility stack as yourself, where has a book, does coaching, has done a few gigs. And what we talked about, what was super interesting, was looking back, connecting the dots of certain decisions that led you to where you are now with your business and in your life. Could you go back and connect those?
Yeah, I would say that definitely for me, it all started in corporate. That's really like where everything began. Like I went from like really having nothing and not knowing anything about leadership or like corporate coaching, any of that. And so when I got involved in leadership and then I started doing a bunch of different things in operations and training, and I realized that I loved talking with big groups. So, and I always had teams of like 20. So that for me was like really exciting. And I think that that's where I realized that I had a passion for speaking. And then I also realized that my storytelling was really great because people were like leaning in and, excited to have these conversations. And so that's truly where it began. And then, in 2018, I got certified as a John Maxwell speaker coach and trainer. And from there, it was like, that was my first big event, like 3,000 people. And I'm like, how have I never discovered this before? So really like, that's where it all started. And yeah, 2019 started my first coaching business and just kind of projected from there. Now I'm really like more in the consulting, and I love like doing culture consulting and just really helping change the atmosphere.
Cool. And so, how did we get acquainted? I would like you to share that instead of myself.
Yeah. So I met you in our epic Facebook group with the Build Your Brand Live with Jen and Chris. And yeah, you were super generous to like open an invitation about speaking and just kind of shared some background that you're doing. And just, again, I love the ambition. I love like the story behind it. And I want to support that. And obviously I would love to be a part of that and watch it grow.
Awesome. Cool. And so, have you always, you said what lit you up the most is the being part of that culture shifting kind of movement in organizations. Looking back when you were, let's say, a 14-year-old girl, the vision you had for your future, was that similar to where you're at now, or were they very, very different?
Oh my gosh, so different. No, if you would have talked to 14-year-old Alexis, I would have been a dancer and like speaking was not my thing. You could not get me in front of a crowd of people. Like I loved one-on-one interaction with people, but like never in crowds. Like I was that person who was like profusely sweating and just like, oh my gosh, trembling over my words. So no, two totally different people. I loved just kind of like blending in with the music. And I think I've always had like that creative drive, but never really realized that my voice would be what I start to utilize.
And what was the moment for you that I'm noticing a lot of speakers kind of have this moment? Some don't. Some have loved speaking always, but that moment for you when it went from getting on stage being like oh shit, this is scary. Like, and you get the nerves, and even though they're cool people, they're not threatening to you at all. There's still like subconsciously that those nerves that come in. What point did it kind of have that pivot, or does it still feel the fear and step into it anyways? Do you still have that kind of battle?
Oh yeah, I think for me, like anytime I'm like preparing to get in front of a big audience, whether it's like speaking on stage or it's just like speaking to 20 to 50 people, I'm like, okay, I think it's really like, okay, am I going to be able to connect with the people that I want to connect with? And so for me, that's like really like, it's all about the deliverability. And so I'm always like super anxious in the beginning, but then yeah, I just like push through because I try to take it away from me and just remember like, this isn't about me, like this is about connecting with them. And that for me truly has been like a huge shift in being able to like get through that and not have so much anxiety throughout the process. I don't want to project that out to the audience, right? Like if I'm speaking, I don't want them to feel my overwhelm. And so I just start focusing on like, okay, how can I help Ryan today? Like he's my one person that I'm going to help. I'm going to focus on you. And, like if I can connect with you, then that's really all that matters.
And as a John Maxwell speaker, you've been paying attention to speaking for a decent amount of time now. What speaker for you have you seen in person or even videos of online that you saw that person, you're like, that person knows their stuff, whoever they are? What is that one speaker that sticks with you as an experienced professional speaker as well? And what is it to you that engages you so much to the way they deliver from stage?
Yeah, I have a few, but like I think really it would be Jamie Kern Lima. I've actually seen her speak live, and the way that she speaks is not from, like monitors or anything like that. She really she waits for that download and she speaks from her heart. She speaks from like her intuition. And the way that she can do that and like really tap into who she is like authentically and connect with every single person in the audience, I think that's super inspiring. And that's what I'm always driving to get to, is like that emotional connection through a story, right? Like we all have an ability to connect through our story, but it's like the way that she drove it home and I felt like, wow, she truly sees me, for me was absolutely incredible. And I hold on to that all the time. She's always like that person that I think about, like, okay, that's what I'm driving for.
Over the years of your career, looking back, well, I'll ask this question. Do you consider your running your own business a career, or is that not a career?
Yeah, I think it is. I feel like the differentiation, right? Most people think career, like you're working for corporate, but I think what I do is also a career too, right? Like it's something I'm passionate about. I'm helping people. I still have a title. Yeah, definitely. It's a career. This is something I want to do for the rest of my life.
And you mentioned before we kind of hopped on here, that giving a TED Talk was on your bucket list. You're in Vermont, right?
Yeah.
What's the main city in Vermont? I feel so untraveled by asking that question.
Burlington is usually what people know.
So let's say the organizer of TEDx Burlington comes up to you and says, "Hey, Alexis, I've seen your stuff online. I've seen you speak. I want to have you on our TEDx stage in 2 months. What do you speak on?"
Resilience. My entire life has been like trials and tribulations. That's what my book is about, overcoming all of the things, diversity, overcoming homelessness, and just like all of the things that could happen to a person, I feel like have happened to me. And the one thing I've always held on to is hope. And so like if I could inspire anything in anybody, it'd be hope through resilience.
Is there a specific story of resilience that you have that you think when you tell it on stage, you would want to share here?
Well, there's a few. It'd probably be when I was younger and I was in a foster home. My mom suffered from addiction. And for me and my brother, we were all each other had, and we were really little. And I think that now the connector with our young kids and our young adults and teens not having that guidance, that I hope that we change that. I hope that eventually we can have that mentorship for our young people. That would really be the story that I spoke about, is just from a young age, that's where I learned what my worth was, or at least I thought I did, right? Like I thought that I wasn't worthy because it was a really bad situation. I thought it had everything to do with me, but it had nothing to do with me. And then to be able to overcome that and really work through those emotions to get to where I am today, I think is important. And I think those are the types of stories that are important to tell our youth. And so that's probably what I would talk about.
And you kind of having worked in corporate as well as, where do you think this kind of entrepreneurial space of business owners and founders, where do you see that going in the next, say, 5 years now with AI, with all these new things that can come out as we're seeing? What do you see happening in that?
Even with AI, I think as long as entrepreneurs are willing to learn the new techniques and really continue to progress with time, then I think that we're going to thrive. And I also do think that corporate is very necessary, right? Like not everybody's going to be an entrepreneur, but I also think it's our responsibility to help organizations learn how to teach their people to be intrapreneurs. So they might not have their own business. If you could give them the skills that an entrepreneur has, so when they're like developing teams, when they're, working with clients, if they had those same types of skills that we had, because, we have to have all of the skills, they would then take that business tenfold, right? Like we can propel forward when people feel like they're more valuable and they have a bigger impact in the overall organizational direction, in the vision. So as long as we're bringing people into that, I think we're going to thrive.
And for you, was there a moment, which there may have been, there may have not been, where you went from being an aspiring speaker to having the courage to say yes to an opportunity that was offered you to speak on a stage, or you decided to go for an opportunity that was there? Was there a moment for you when you had to make that decision from being an aspiring speaker to being courageous enough to just take that step and go on stage?
Yeah, it actually happened for me at my old employer, that we had this women's group really. And it was like, for women leaders to come in, and it was like a mentorship. And because I had started my own business that was all about coaching and speaking, they asked if I'd like to speak at the summit. And I was like, okay, do I do this? Like, am I ready for this? And I wasn't sure. I was so nervous nervous this entire time. And then the moment that I got up there, it was in front of 42 women. And it was the most incredible feeling I had ever had in my life. Like, I don't think I had ever felt, I was like, I want that feeling again, over and over and over. And the conversation that comes from it afterwards, when you do like talk about your story, and you just like, in that one, I gave tips and I brought in like my kids in the conversation and like all of these different things. And it was so beautiful. And the conversation afterwards was just like, it fueled me, I feel like, for at least a month. Like, I was ready to go. I just so amped, like, okay, where's the next one?
How do you describe that feeling? Because a lot of I've spoke to and personally felt the same thing, where that moment where you're on stage and then you get off and it's just that feeling. How would you describe that?
Yeah. Oh, I would say it's like feeling like a kid, and there's that one toy that you really, really want, and then you get it, and it's like that satisfaction. It's the butterflies. It's the, oh my gosh, like I did that. Proud, just all of joy, happiness, all of that, vulnerability. But then there comes a crash, right? Because that's so much emotion all at one time. And so like really just, I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that before, except speaking on stage.
Was there one particular talk that you've given that, like all the gigs you've spoken at, that sticks out to you in particular? And what was it about makes it stick in your head today?
Yeah, I think that it was probably my last speaking gig, which was last year in June. It was in front of, I think there were 250 women business owners. And I was talking about my corporate experience and the reason why I wanted to do culture consulting. And it was about putting people first. And the impact that the conversation had was because I had to dissolve one of our company's locations. And so that was 150 people that I worked closely with. A lot of them I onboarded myself. You know what I mean? Like, I did all of these things with these individuals. I cared about them. And so because I had that passion for the people, yes, I cared about the business, but it was the people that I was most concerned about being able to transition out and allow them to have something to like fall back on. I created these personalized plans. I would be on the phone until 11 o'clock at night with some of these individuals, like walking through, like doing mock interviews and helping them update resumes and doing letters of recommendation and like all of these things. And it was so people be able to exit and not have that stress and not have that, like, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to feed my family? They didn't have that. And then I actually got let go last year, and it was a 5-minute conversation after serving the company for 12 years. And it was the most hurtful thing I feel like I had really experienced. And so I wanted to bring the compassion and the people first. Like, I wanted to say, how can I help you excel and get revenue and do all of the things that you want to do, but then also like really care about your people and bring them into the mix. And that was probably, again, like one of the most impactful conversations to see, like, so many women come to me and say, I know exactly who you need to work with. Like, our hospitals need this, our schools need this. There's just so much. And I think that we could do so much with care and kindness. And that's really what it's about.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that 5 minutes? It seemed like it was only 5 minutes, but it probably felt like an eternity.
Yeah, I know, right? 5 minutes, you would think it would go by in a blink of an eye. But when I was talking, I felt like I was up there forever. But it was just like, it was this synchronicity with the audience that was like, it's just so profound. Honestly, it was every person I looked at, you could just see them coming closer. Like, I felt that. I've been there. Like, oh my gosh, like, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. But like, wow, good for you for like helping these 150 people. It was such an incredible feeling, but it really did. It felt like forever. You feel like you're talking for a long time, and then you realize like, oh, only 5 minutes. I could have did so much more with 10 or 20. So yeah.
And all of these moments that you've had in both corporate and in entrepreneurship or running your own business, what would you say are a moment from each of those paths that sticks with you today and impacts you, especially from, let's say, the stage when you're sharing your story to your audience? What's a moment from corporate that sticks with you, and then a moment from your own building your own business that sticks with you that you, I guess, channel in those moments on stage?
Yeah, I think for corporate, I would say for me, the one thing that stuck out was the impact. It wasn't about me. When I was able to shed, it wasn't about the title. I didn't need the promotion to make the impact. And like, people were naturally following me as if I was already their leader, with or without a title. And I think that sometimes we get so caught up in that promotional phase or like the drive that we forget about the people that we're trying to take with us or that are watching us. And so it was really like my influence. How am I role modeling to somebody else what the expectation is, how they can get ahead and how they can move forward? And then when I realized that it had nothing to do with titles, it had nothing to do with anything, it really had to do with everything about how I showed up and about the people. And I think that that goes in my business, that goes within corporate, that goes on stage, that goes anywhere. The moment that you allow yourself, at least in my opinion, is if I can communicate, connect, and build relationships effectively with anybody that I encounter, everything will come back to me, right? Like it's going to come back tenfold. It's going to create an impact. It's going to help somebody else move forward in their trajectory.
Was there one from owning a business and running a business?
Not being scared to get on stage and talk about the things that you do, right? Like it's easy when you're in corporate because the guidance is there, right? There's a direction, you know where you're going. Entrepreneurship, I feel like, is so different from that. Like having a business is like you're doing all of the things all the time. And you're like, is this stage right for where I'm trying to go? Is this audience right? Are they going to perceive this message correctly? Plus, you're doing all of the other things in the background. So I think that for me is really like it's okay, just breathe and just allow yourself to show up. When the opportunities come, they're there for a reason, and don't be scared to take them. Like you can get on any stage and talk about what you know, right? Like I love and am passionate about the things that I do. So as long as I keep channeling that and not try to do anything else, like, I don't need to be an expert in this, or I don't need to talk about these other things everybody else is doing. As long as I stay true to me, then I think everything aligns.
That's awesome. And in your business, especially, I don't know if you remember this at the Build Your Brand live event it was October in Dallas, when Jen said, who in here wants to be a speaker? Like 99% of people raised their hands, right? I would also assume that all of those people were also business owners or ran their own business or part of a small business that they had a large role in, a lot of touch in, if that makes sense. For you, how have you been able to leverage speaking on certain stages, whether it's the actual appearance or the content that you get from the videographer that records your talk, whatever the methodology is? What strategies and tactics have you used to leverage for your business after the gig or during the gig?
So you're just saying like being at a place like somewhere I've spoken, like how do I use that content later to like further the business?
Yeah. How do you go on stage to benefit your business?
Yeah. Again, I'm going to go back to impact. I think it's really the connection that I make with the people, because that's something that is streamlined across everything for me. Any event that I go to, I typically don't go there to ask for anything. I go there to connect with people and to give. And when I do that, I notice that naturally people come back and like we have rich conversation, and then I get things in the end anyway, right? Like we have conversations, or they invite me like, would you do a podcast with me? Or I'm having this event, would you want to speak on my stage? And again, that's not like manipulation. That's genuinely because I care to have conversation with people and I want to connect with them. So when I go there, usually that's my expectation, is I want to connect with as many people as I can that align with me. And sometimes that doesn't happen, right? Like there are people that don't align with me, but being able to come back and say, okay, the event is done. I'm going to now go back into my business. How can I use some of these conversations that I had with people? How can I use the connection to then create another message that says, get in the room and connect with X, Y, and Z? Or, here's the 3 tips that I learned by speaking to a TED Talk expert. Like, you know what I mean? Like just using things like that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like what I do, but it can be how am I connecting with people? Because that's something that I care about, is connecting with people. And that's also what I teach organizations to do, is connect with their people. So the best way to do that is to use the content from the event of me connecting with people to show the power of connection.
And when you use your content, is it socials, YouTube, or is there a place? Let's say I wanted to learn more about Alexis and the work she does. Where would I go to learn more about you?
Yeah, I think it depends on what content you want to consume, but Instagram is usually like my primary platform, and then LinkedIn is as well. And then my email list. So I love to have like intimate conversations in there. I love to like really allow people to get to know me better and more personally. And so like I love to have people go from my social to my email list, because that's where I think that you get the most Alexis, and to like really just get to know me. And that's where then I connect with people too, is like the responses that I get from different emails that I sent out, or like, hey, this really resonated. And then I also get feedback on what people would like more of, so then I can serve them better.
And from your corporate experience, I guess on the more tactical side, as far as marketing and branding and those kinds of things, what have you pulled from that experience that you use in growing your speaking business today?
Yeah, the big thing that I learned is how to network, but then also like the KPIs, what are the metrics, reading P&Ls, and how to earn expense reports, and the things that I don't necessarily love doing, but those were like the tactical things, you have to do these to have a functional business. And so I would say that that's really what I was able to take in and transition over. But then also like that networking piece is huge, like to get the connections.
Your 2024 business goals and speaking goals, what do those look like? And kind of how did you come up with those as well?
Yeah. So this year, the focus is primarily on my book, which will be coming out in like summertime. So the end of Q2. Yeah, I know. I'm so excited. And so really the speaking is going to be around that. It's going to be really about doing less of like the tactical working with organizations. And like, I love speaking to corporate, but like, that's going to be less of the focus. And it's going to be more of like that personal brand, the memoir, like how can I incorporate my actual story into this? And so like, that is like a primary focus throughout the entire year. And then also I still have to keep the function of the business going. So working with organizations and really just being intentional on how many people I work with, because again, like the work that I do with culture is pretty big. So just making sure that I have time and space to be able to really build my brand.
And your credibility stack as a speaker, your speaking gigs, your socials, a book, TED Talk in the future, it seems like, maybe even hosting your own mastermind in the future, whatever it is. I notice a lot of people I talk to, they normally there's a decision they have to make as far as when is it appropriate or best for them to write a book, and then what do they write about. So how did you kind of go about that decision and then that process of becoming an author and writing that book, everything from imposter syndrome maybe to whatever else you encountered?
Yeah. So for me, actually, it was some personal losses in my life that I had that were like just back to back. And it was a very intense time. And for me, it was the realization that I know that I'm here for a limited time. And when I go, what stories will people form about me? And I have now. And so for me, it was right now is the most important time to write my story because I might not have tomorrow, but I also want to tell the world who I am. I don't want them to assume who I am. And so I think that regardless if you publish it or not, like it's great practice to just because you get to know yourself. Like there were so many things like I got to like experience versions of myself that like when I was younger all over again. And I got to see me in a different light. So it was actually really cool. Imposter syndrome is huge. You know, I have a team of people that I work with and that keep me going because there's times I'm like, nope, I'm done. I'm just, throwing the towel. But yeah, I think for me, it was really just like, we only have right now. So why am I going to wait? Do I want to wait 10 years from now? Because I probably won't do it in 10 years. So I just decided to sit down and do it. And the next book will be a tactical one, but I figured it was more important to start with my actual story first.
And how long did it take you to, I guess, the moment you decided to sit down and just start going away and writing that book to when you finished writing it, the time between when you finished writing it and publishing and launching it?
Yeah. So I started last year in January. I started like the outlining process. And then in March, I was actually writing my first draft and that was done in August, which is when I actually started the publishing process. And so right now we're in 10 different editing phases. So I'm like, which one are we in right now? The line edits will come next and all of that. So yeah. So right now it's just going through, making sure everything is good to go and formatted correctly. And this is all like the exciting stuff. But I will say that editing is actually harder than writing the first draft.
Really? Why is that? What makes editing so difficult?
It's a lot of work. So like you go through it the first time, you're like, yes, I'm done. I'm accomplished. I've got it. And then you have to go through the whole thing again and adjust all of these things. And so then you have to reread your work. And that's where the judgment comes in because you're like, oh my gosh, nobody's going to read this. This is terrible. But yeah, it's such a crazy process. Honestly, I really never thought that I would write a book. Like I always wanted to, but I was like, oh, like people want to all the time. So to really do that is really cool. But yeah, I would say that the editing, and actually every person I've talked to who's written a book has said the same thing. So yeah.
For the speaker who's maybe, they're running a business or they're an aspiring speaker or they're already a professional speaker and they haven't written a book yet, but they're kind of sitting on the fence. Do I write that book? I have all this other stuff I got to do. Is it worth my time? Not sure. What do you have to say to that person that's kind of in that internal debate?
Well, I think if anybody like has even the slightest pull to write a book, then they should write the book. But then also too, like if you're a speaker, that only benefits you. People love to see a book out in the world. Like you see your book on Amazon, somebody can go and purchase it. That makes you more, I don't want to say valuable because then I feel like that ties to them, but like it gives you that credibility. It makes people like desire that more. They're like, oh my gosh, now I've read your words. Now I want to hear you speak. And then that really just kind of builds off of it. So I think it can only benefit. So why not?
And what would you say are the things that you value in your personal credibility stack as a speaker? Your book, is it the socials, is it the impact that you have on people, or what is what are those things that you find valuable in your own credibility stack, which obviously you have?
Yeah, definitely the book. I think it's just trust, like building trust that I'm going to show up as who I truly am. I want that in anything that I do, speaking, writing a book, on my social media. Like if you were to go through my social media, you would see like there's vulnerable posts, there's business posts, there's like really be like crazy, just fun, random posts. So it's like, I want people to see all aspects of me. I don't want them to just see that neat put together person, because that's truly not me. Like we all have our ups and downs. And I think that that's the beauty in life. And I also think that's super important for people to see. So I think for my credibility is just that honesty and integrity. I want people to know that.
I've given 2 different TEDx talks. The first one was full of mistakes, super raw and vulnerable. I wrote an entire script and prepared for it, got on stage, said the first 2 words, forgot the entire script, and everything was pure improv. The second one was, there was no script, but I stuck to this framework like very precisely. It was what I would call perfect.
Yeah.
The first one got way more people responding to it, saying, "Oh my gosh, that happened to me too. Thank you so much for being brave enough to share this on stage." The second one kind of just remained empty, right? And it was really interesting, and it got me thinking of, wow, people really seem to value the authenticity, the vulnerability. And even though I got off stage the first time, oh my gosh, I messed up. This was horrible. Oh my goodness. The first one was, oh, I killed it. That was so amazing. That was awesome. I did so great. The first one actually was way better, which was really surprising. At what point did you kind of realize as a speaker that the vulnerability and that authenticity is actually way more valuable to connect with people authentically than kind of being perfect, so to speak?
Yeah. So luckily I haven't actually done that in like any big speeches. So before I speak, I do the script too. I'm like, I write it all out. I'm like, this is what I'm going to say. And then I try to go through it and I'm like, I stumble over my word. It doesn't feel good. And I'm super anxious. And then I'm like, you know what? Okay. I just need bullets. Like, give me a couple of pointers. I know I want to talk about this, but like, however I say it is how I'm supposed to say it in that moment. What I've noticed though, going live or doing social media posts, like I've had scripts and I try to record it and I don't even know. I'm like, that's not even me. Who is that? It's terrible. It gets no engagement whatsoever. But the ones like where I go in and it's just funny, or like I might trip over my words or I say something completely wrong. Like I don't even mean to say what I say, but people love that. And there's so much reaction. There's so much commentary and people are engaging with it. And so that's how I know that, okay, people are showing up because of me and the way that I present myself and the way that I speak and those flaws, right? So like if I try to get rid of them, then it's just going to be empty. So why? Like I want to avoid that at all costs. And I mean, again, imposter syndrome does happen. So like there are times when I'm like, it needs to be perfect. And then I hide and I'm like, what am I doing? Like sometimes I'll go back to a video where I was just like, that was like so crazy and ridiculous, but it was like such good conversation. And that's just a reminder that it's okay to be me because there's only one me. So why not?
Have you ever had those moments where, and I'm speaking from my experience because this happened to me in the first TED Talk. It was memorize the entire script word for word, and then you're saying it and then you mess up one word. Then you get caught in your head, oh, I just messed that word up. Oh no. And then you're worried about that and you forget the next word and then you mess up another word and it just kind of.
Yes.
Have you had those kind of moments in your speaking career so far?
Oh yeah. When I first started going live, that was like anytime I would go live. And then I'm like, I was thinking about the last thing. And then I'm like, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. That to me is worse. And so I usually just quickly try to hit the end button because I'm like, I'm done. I don't want to be on here anymore. Yeah. Why do we do that to ourselves? Like, it doesn't even make sense. But yeah, I've totally been there so many times. And I'm like, why do I keep doing that? People don't like that because they can't connect with it anyway. So I'm like, whatever, I might as well just do me and not be so anxious because nobody needs that anxious, Alexis.
And then you remember after, you're like, wait, nobody even saw my script besides me. They didn't know what was perfect in my head. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're just about wrapped up here on our timeline. Did you have any last message that you want to share with me and anybody listening here, aspiring speakers, professional speakers, business owners that speak for their business, TEDx organizers, TEDx speakers, any of those kinds of people?
Yeah. I think in general, like as a collective, communication is like an essential, right? We all communicate regardless of what that is, whether that's me verbally speaking to you, whether that's my body language, whether that's like my presentation. And so the more comfortable we get using our voice, the better we start to feel, the more confident that we are. And so if you have any dream or desire to talk, any capacity, like whatever that is, you don't have to be on a stage to speak, but maybe you want to be a trainer, like whatever that looks like for you, take that leap. And if you don't have the skills, there's so many things out there. There's YouTube, there's professionals that can literally help give you those skills and walk you through it. So why hold yourself back? Because we only have right now.
Love it, Alexis. Well, thank you for taking this time, and we will wrap it up here. Cheers, y'all.
Thank you.